Okay, so I wanted us to talk about color and generally color theory in product design. Now, as you know, color is like a very important aspect of design. Color carries a lot of emotions, like in fact, evolutionarily, human beings were designed to react to color. Like we've survived reacting to color. So, I mean, colors like, white, means something to us. When we see something and is bright red, it means something to us. When you see something and it's green, it means something to us. And, like there is a reason these colors mean something to us. So for instance, now, um, uh, because when somebody hurts themselves, blood flows, right? We have developed an evolutionary attachment to color red to mean that there is danger, to mean that something is not right. And also because generally the nature is green, right? Grass is green, trees are green, and then there is an abundance of this, and also blue. We've developed an emotional connection to blue and green. Generally, colors mean a lot to us as human beings, and in designing anything, color is a very major, thing to consider. So, first of all, we're going to talk about hue, right? Hue is generally the stuff color is made of, right? It's red, blue, green. That is hue. So here on the, are you guys still seeing my screen?
Yes.
All right. So here on
yes.
On Figma, this here is hue, right? You can go from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, all the way to violet, right? This is hue, basically hue, right? Is the stuff color is made of. Now, apart from hue, there are other. Okay, maybe I should just make this because this already is already triggering me even looking at this bright red thing. So apart from hue, there are other things that describe color, right? There is saturation. Saturation is basically, I think I should take, it's easier to use saturation and lighting. Saturation is basically how much color is in a thing. So if you have a lot of color, it is very saturated. If you have too little color, it is not saturated, right? So I've changed this color wheel to hue, saturation, and light. So this is the hue, and if you go from here to here, it goes from more to less saturated. You can see how it goes. So this saturation, you can see if I keep moving it like this, it becomes less and less and less. The red becomes less and less and less and less and less and less until it goes from all red to a bit grayish red to all the way, red becomes absent. Apart from that, you have something that you call lighting or brightness, right? Brightness is how much white, is in something. And the opposite of brightness is going to be darkness, right? So is how much white is in something, and then darkness would be how much black is in it. So if you're going from here and you are going up, sorry. So if you're going from here and they're going up, it becomes brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter until it's all white, right? And then on the opposite direction, it becomes darker and darker and darker and darker until it's all black. So this thing is called like tone and shade, like shade and tone, right? Sorry, tint and shade. So tint is the amount, it is what is the amount of white in something. So as you can see, if we start out from here, like normal red, and then we start adding, sorry. And then if you start out here and then we start adding, sorry, give me a second. I'm trying to. And then you start adding white to something, to this red. The more white you add, it becomes lighter and lighter and lighter. That is tint. These are tints of red. So if this is red and this is a tint of red, that is a tint of red, is a tint of red, is a tint of red, a tint of red, all the way until it becomes white. Yeah. And then if you go on the other side, down, it becomes a shade of red, 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 all the way till it becomes black. And then if on the other side, you decide to go on this side, like on the side, this becomes a tone of red. Tone is like when you add gray, you know, to it. So tone of red, 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 all the way till it becomes an absolute gray. So if you're going up, that is tint. If you're going down, that is shade. If you're going to a side, that is tone. And mind you that this is the HSL color scale or color scheme. That's the hue, saturation, and lighting. Of course, you can change the code here. There is CSS that is typically used in code. There is RGB, that is red, green, and blue, the amount of red. So there are many ways to describe a color. You can describe a color by the amount of hue, saturation, and lighting in it. As we said, the hue is the color, in this case, red. And there's also a hue of blue. And then the saturation, as we said, is the amount of color in it. And then the lighting is how light and how dark. So that's one way to describe a color. Another way to describe a color would be RGB. That is how much red, how much red, how much green, and how much blue is in it. So if you have, for instance, let's say, right? So if you have, let's say 222 red RGB, you know, that's black, not black actually. Zero, I think 000 will be black. That means 0 red, 0 green, and 0 blue. That will be black. On the other hand, if you have like a maximum of red, green, and black, that will be white. You know, all colors combined gives you white in the RGB scale. So depending on how much of each color that is here, the color is going to continue changing based on how much red or how much green or how much blue. So you see, we reduce the amount of red and the color is now tending towards something that lives between green and blue. So these are different ways to describe a color. There's also a hex code, you know. Now this hex code is like, you know, is another way of describing a color, but it's more of is something that a computer would understand more because, you know, in coding, this is typically what is used, like the hex code. Is normally, when you describe it, it normally starts with a hash and then this 6 combination of figures and letters here. So in this case, like FFFF, you know, is going to mean white, whereas 00000 is going to mean black. And then, you know, different colors will have their different hex codes, you know, as you go up and down. But generally, there are millions and millions and millions of colors, you know, varieties possible. And, you know, hex codes, you know, can be used to describe every shade, every tint, every light of every hue of color. Right, so that is it for saturation and brightness. Then the color wheel, the color wheel is generally a way artists have learned to kind of describe and systematize colors, right? So generally in the color wheel, I think there is this website that you can go and check out. I think it's called color.adobe.com. So it kind of gives you access to, okay, so this is the color wheel, right? So the color wheel is generally, a way artists have learned to basically make sense of color, right? And it shows the interrelationship, between all colors. So generally, you have like primary colors, which is red, green, and blue. That's red, green, and blue. And then, sorry, not red, green, and blue. Green is a secondary color. That's red, yellow, and blue. Then every other color is like a mixture of these colors. So green, for instance, is going to be a mixture of yellow and blue. Orange is going to be a mixture of yellow and red, whereas red and blue is going to give you purple. But then you have a fuller like color wheel. Like what I see now is a fuller color wheel. So it's even hard to tell where the red stopped and where the violet begins and all of that. So this actually is the full color wheel that gives you all the spectrum of all the colors. And so we've talked about the different hex code, the codes that are used to define colors. Then there is also something called a color system. So here, for instance, there are things called monochromatic colors. So basically, mono means one, chrome means color. So monochromatic means like a color scheme that is made up of a color from one hue, right? So we said that hue is basically a color, right? Is the stuff that the color is made of. So for instance, if hue is red, you can have red that is of a different shade and a different light, but it's still red, yeah? It's still red. It can be of a different shade, it can be of a different light, but it's still red. Yeah, so monochromatic colors are typically colors that are made up of the same hue, but then different shades and tints of that one hue. And that is typically what is used in UI designs for digital product, like in UI designs. Because UI designs avoid using too colors colors at once, because when you have too many colors, generally you start to get tired of looking at those colors. Like when you have a lot of colors, you start to get like a mental, a psychological fatigue, just looking at so many colors at once, right? So what UI design would typically do, because you need to look at it many times, is just take one color and then use that color, like use different shades of that color and different tints of that color to achieve a design. So monochromatic color scheme is most used in UI designs. But there are other color schemes. For instance, there are complementary color schemes that try to take, try to combine colors from the opposite sides of the color wheel. So here you have, from this side, and of course, I forgot to say that the color wheel can be divided into two parts. So this part is going to be the warm colors, right? This side are the cool colors, right? So what complementary color scheme does is kind of combine cool and warm colors in order to get some sort of a balance. Whereas there are other color schemes, analogous color scheme, for instance, you can see it kind of takes colors from the same side, of of the color wheel. Let me show you complementary. For instance, if you move like this, you know, basically this here is the color scheme, by the way. And you can actually use this to, if you're an artist, for instance, who is trying to, you know, design or paint something, and you want your color scheme to be complementary, you can come to this speaker and use it as a tool to find the colors to use to complement your this thing to make it balanced. Yeah, so this is complementary color scheme. Another kind of color scheme, analogous color scheme, basically choosing from colors that kind of look the same, right? To achieve some sort of like you know, like a pattern, right? And then there's also another kind of color scheme, a triad color scheme, also trying to achieve balance. So you can read up more on the color on this, you know, color scheme theory to understand when to use what. I think there's another. This one is split complementary. And then there is another, also a square, you know, also combining things from all sides of the color scheme to try to, you know, achieve some sort of a balance. Right. Okay, but of course, like in doing our own design, we are going to as I said, pretty much be using the monochromatic color scheme. So about I think we talked about the emotions. Okay, we talked about RGB, CMYK. So CMYK, I think, is another kind of color scheme that is mostly used in printing. RGB is also used in printing, but CMYK is like cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. K is black. I don't know. I think is it where is that K coming from? But well, this is basically cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So I think we can have, okay, this doesn't have that color scheme. Okay. Talked about color codes and then the emotions behind color. So as I've said, different colors represent different things, and these emotions are very, you know, deeply ingrained, you know, in our psychology, that whenever colors are used, they mean something. It can also, from an evolutionary perspective, for instance, green is going to mean, you know, more of more of calmness. Is going to kind of bring more of calmness, because, you know, think about it. If the trees around us were all red, you know, generally, maybe we would have evolved to see red as a calm color, but because we evolved in an environment where everything is green, green kind of becomes the color that calms us, you know. And red, because whenever, you know, somebody gets hurt or somebody, you know, is hit with an arrow, you know, blood comes out, you start associating red with danger. And you can see in most cultures, red is always associated with danger, whether it is, you know, people associating it with juju, or people, you know, using it as stop signs. Generally, red is supposed to kind of catch anybody's attention, because we evolved to see it as a color that comes before something really bad happens, right? And blue is, it also calms us, because we generally, you know, evolved in an environment where the sky is blue. So whenever the sky is blue, it means it's not raining, it's sunny, and our psyche just starts seeing or perceiving blue as a calming color. Of course, white is absence of color. We perceive it as purity. You know, of course, in some places it can mean other things. Can mean things. Okay, even purity. I think because it's purity. That's why, you know, wedding gowns are typically in white, or women are supposed to wear white for their wedding gowns, because it's supposed to signify that they are pure. And sometimes, of course, in some places, it can also be used as a classic color, more like in this minimalist movement, color minimalism, would typically prefer white because white kind of, makes things look more spacious. Like even if the space, the environment or the room is not very spacious, if it's painted all white, it's not look bigger. If the furnitures are all white, it just generally just looks bigger. Right. Of course, green will also represent life, represent growth, all of that. Purple is more of a cultural, context, because back in history, okay, purple, if I ask you what purple means now, you're going to say it means royalty, right? But that is not like, I wouldn't say it's like an evolutionarily generated view of purple. Is more of a culturally generated view of purple. And the reason why purple denotes royalty is because there used to be a time when purple was a very expensive color to produce, right? If you remember in the Bible, for people who are Christians, there is a story where I think Joseph the dreamer, his father bought him a coat of many colors, and because a lot of people now, you would think, why did the coat of many colors cost so much wahala? Well, that's because there used to be a time when color was very, very expensive to produce, and the most expensive color then to produce was purple. So if anybody was wearing anything that has purple inside, right, that clothes must be very, very, very expensive, because in order to produce purple, the way they used to produce purple back in the day is that they will start collecting there are these mollusks, these sea animals, that you open them and then you bring out something from them and then you smash that thing. In fact, like, it takes tons and tons and tons of that animal. I think is a shell. There is this seashell, not a seashell actually. There's all these sea animals that have shells, like mollusks, right? So there is a gland inside them, very, very small. And then you have to bring out that gland and then grind it. And for you to get even a gram of purple, you have to catch tons and tons of these, sea mollusks. So that's why purple is a very expensive color. And because of that, only rich people, royal people can afford purple. So over time, it has started being associated with royalty and all of that. And that perception, has remained in today's, view of purple, even though purple is no longer expensive to produce, but it's still there in our psyche. Right. So it does, have color does leave a lot of emotions. And for that reason, whenever I'm not saying you should start cramming what each color means. If you go online, you can, maybe you're trying to build a product. If you're trying to find what color to use, of course, the easiest way to choose a color would be to go by the company's primary colors. It will be on their logos typically. So if a company's logo has red in it, you can consider using red for their primary color. If it has maybe blue, you can consider using blue for their primary color. But if the company doesn't have a logo yet, and then you are having to, design it for them, you first, find out, what the company culture is, what the company is about, their mission and goals and whatnot. And then based on that, you can try to find colors for them. You can just go on the internet and try to find which color denotes, this kind of thing, yeah. So that is generally how to pick colors, for the product you're building, or for the logo you're building, or whatever. Then contrast ratio. In the last class, you guys learned about accessibility, right? Now, so there are people who have color blindness, right? So color blindness means that they are not able to differentiate between certain colors. So there are people who have red-green color blindness, for instance. If they see red or they see green, or it looks the same to them, right? So these two things now here, like this, okay, maybe I don't know if you guys can see it. You are sharing screen. Maybe you guys cannot see it. But if they see green and red side by side, it just looks gray to them. They cannot tell the difference between red and green. So when you are designing, you have to consider that. So for instance, if you have something that looks like okay, let me just so if you have something that looks like this now, so if you have something that looks like this now, for you, this thing may be visible, but for someone who is color colorblind in the basically red blue colorblind or red green colorblind, a person is not able to see the text that is written here because the saturation of this is the same. Sorry, what do you call this now? The tint, is the same. The saturation is the same with this red one. You see, sorry. So what they can see is generally, that it will just look plain to them because they cannot differentiate this and this. However, if this thing is like this and maybe this green is here, there is more shade to it, then they can differentiate it based on the shade, but they cannot differentiate it based on the hue. Do you understand? So that color blindness is something that you need to think about. And in order to, so there are things that you need to check for when you are designing, and there are tools actually that make these things easy. So for instance, accessibility tools on this web app. So if you are using this WCAG regulation, you can come here and check to see if your design passes. Now, so if you look at this thing now, you can read it, yeah, but not everyone can because there are people who have poor vision, blurry vision, and because of that, they are not able to read, for instance, this on this background is not accessible to them. So this one fails, right? So you always need to come and check your design to see if it passes the accessibility test. So for instance, it fails here, but if for instance you increase the text size, it can pass. Or if you change it from icons, so if it's an icon, they can see it, but if it's a text of this size, they cannot see it. If it's text of this size, they will be able to see it. Another way they will be able to see it, like this one, you can change it from fail to pass by reducing the contrast, like by increasing the contrast, I mean. That's reducing, making the background darker so you can see it passes on all these things. So whenever you have like a color that you want to test, you can, for instance, this is the hash, this is the code. So let's go back to our thing now. So we can test it and see if it passes. Yeah. So here we have the hex code is this, and that's the background. So the background color is this, right? And then the foreground color, that's the text color, is this. So let's see if it passes accessibility tests. right? So you can see it failed all accessibility tests, right? It fails. Now, is there something that we can do to make it pass? This one, if we reduce this one all the way down, you can see it passes as I predicted. Or sorry, what was it before? Where did I notice? Okay. Or this one, does it pass if you contrast like this? It also passes. So yeah, things to think about. So another thing, okay, so that's the contrast ratio, by the way. So the contrast ratio here is 4:1. It passes, but it fails here because the contrast is not enough. So if you reduce the darkness of this one, then it can pass. So basically, whatever you're designing, you can bring it here and see if it passes the test. So I think they're using 17 points here because 17 will typically be your text size. 18 will be for text of higher sizes or whatnot. So if you want it to pass, basically come here and check it, essentially. Right. Of course, there are also plugins that you can use to test contrasts. If you don't want to go all the way to that website, you can use a plugin that is called Contrast here. So when you input this plugin, you can select, for instance, this frame, and it can tell you whether it passes or fails. So here, normal text fail, large text fail, fail. It just fails all the tests. However, if for instance this one you basically reduce make it this way, then it starts to pass. Right? Starts to pass. So generally, you want to generally test your designs to see if they pass the test. Right. So I think down to designing a color palette. So when you're choosing your color palette, right? As I said, you first of all start by picking your color, which is going to your primary color. You pick a primary color, you pick a secondary color if it applies to you. And then you also want to pick accent colors. So accent colors are other colors, that other objects you have that is besides primary and secondary. It can also be colors like warning colors, accent colors can also be colors that are used for indicators, right? So whether it's red, yellow, and green, that is used to indicate if something is wrong or something is good or something is, ongoing, okay, whatever. So you need to have all those colors. And when you are doing that, when you've picked your colors, so this is what your color stars is supposed to kind of look like. Can I just choose like a banner? Too much. Okay, I think okay, so there are two ways to start, right? As I said in the last time, sometimes you may find yourself designing a color palette after the fact, like after you've already designed your product, and then you need to regularize it. Say for instance, now I already have, I've already designed this product. Now I want to regularize it. Where is the website? Okay, okay, you know what? Let me just use this one. So I want to regularize because as you can see, so this one, for instance, is the first screen I designed. Yeah. So this is the first screen I designed here, but then I want to make every other thing match, right? So you can start by designing your color palette and then going on from there. A lot of times that's not realistic. A lot of times you need to, or of course, like if you already understand where your brand, what your brand guides are, in which case we actually did. We knew the colors I wanted to use before we even started out the project. But sometimes you may find yourself in a position where you're already in, in a company that already has that already has a website, already have their brand colors, but then you want to regularize it for them because now you want to expand. So you no longer want to have a landing page, you want to have like a whole website, and then you want to design all the pages for that website, right? In order for the pages to remain, colors on the pages to remain consistent, or if you're working with a couple of designers, a team of designers, you want everybody to be using the same colors. That's where you need to, start thinking about the color styles. And let's say I already have this thing here, and then I'm trying to build color styles. This is kind of how it's going to work. Sorry, my computer is a bit slow. Okay, so I first choose the primary and the secondary color, right? So here is my primary. Of course, whenever you click here, it starts with showing you this one. Here's my primary color. This is my primary color. That's my primary color. Then I have to label it. Okay, so that's my primary color. And then right under it, I can have my secondary color. So the secondary color, in this case, I have it. I'm going to pick it from here. First of all, I'm going to show you how to do this manually, and then I'll show you how to use plugins for it. But it's important that you understand how to do it manually, so that you understand the principle behind doing it, so that even when you're using the plugin, you understand kind of what you are doing and why it's important. So that's the primary color, and sorry, I think let me make this closer. And that's the secondary color. Now, let us do our accent colors. Now, accent colors are I said, are the other colors that support your work. They can be like indicators. For instance, in this case, you can see we have indicators. We have green, red, and all of that. So yeah, we are going to need accent colors. So from this work now, I think green and red is all of the accent colors we have. Although we have yellow actually to show when it's neither here nor there, where it's somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to have like three accent colors. So of course, because um, Let me just put it at the bottom. So because our accent colors are more than one, we're going to have like so this like, let's say success. So this success, this fail. This fail, and then this is warning. All right. Okay, so for this, we're going to want to make it a green. Um, let's say we want to make it this green, right? For instance. And then the fill, let's say we just want to make it a red, something here. And then the warning, we just want to use the same secondary color for our warning. So we don't have too many colors. Right. Then you now have the grays, right? You now have the grays. The grays are basically what you are going to be using the most. Basically what you're going to be using the most, right? So typically what some people do not like, say for instance, let me start with this, right? So some people do not like go all the way to gray, right? To just gray. Sometimes they want to add a little of their primary color to that gray. So it may not be visible to you, but there is that element. I don't know if you can see, that this is no longer gray, but this is gray that has just a little, of this thing inside, and it may seem like it's nothing, but it kind of has. But I mean, that's just what some people do. I don't know who, but some people do that. Okay, so this is the starting point, right? But then you are not just going to be working with only these colors. So you would need to have like a color, a whole color scheme, for this. So for the primary color, okay, let me show you an instance now here. So here we have this color. This is a primary color, but here you can see a darker form of it, and here you can see a very light form of it. Yeah. And then we use like different, forms of it in different places, right? So here, for instance, you can see that this is a gray, but yeah, there's still a lighter gray and even lighter gray here. So you find all of this going on, and you have to define it. You have to define it so it doesn't happen. It's not, you don't just select at random what you want to use. In order for all your pages and all the designers to be using exact same colors, you would need to define what these colors are going to be. And that is where, building a color style comes in. So you've done your primary colors, but then you have to define, the styles for that primary color. And how this happens is you are going to take the primary color, let's say put it in the middle, and then or let me just start this from here. It's going to be unrealistic that way. And then you break it down into sections. Sorry. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Depending on how many of it you want. depending on how many of it you want. And then your own primary color is in the middle. So you kind of make it stand out. And then everything here is going to be shades of this primary color. And then on this side, you have tints of this primary color. And we've talked about shades and tints. Now, how do you select, these colors? Now, what I sometimes a hacker would use sometimes is to simply click on this and then click here. That is one shade, 20%. And then I click here, it gives me another 20%. I make it 40. And then here I make this one 80. And then here I make this one, okay, 80 might be too much. Let's say 60. And then here I make this one 80. Right, so I now have all my shades of this color. And then on this other end, I make it lighter. So instead of the shade now, I will now use, like this. And then actually, I should have just duplicated. Let me just duplicate this size now, so it's easier. Second. So this one now, I'll make it 40. This one now, I'll make it 60. And this, I'll make it 80. That looking good. You know what? Sometimes I actually find that I need even a light. I mean, I need it to even lighter than this. Like same, almost next to invisible. Right. So that's about that. And then I take this, copy it, and then paste it down here. And then you can see that, here that all the selected colors are pretty much the same. All I need to do is pick this one and change it to this, and then all of them will also change. So I do that and then do that for also the greens and do that for all of these colors as well. But since we don't have space here, let me make that space. So then this one. Okay. Okay. So do the same with this. Right. Now, so now you have like all of these colors. And then, but notice that what I did here is not say call this orange, right? I didn't call this orange. I called this primary color. And I called it primary color to kind of describe its purpose, like how it's going to be used. The reason that is what if in the future the company decides that, you know what, that they don't, if I name this thing orange, for instance, and the company decides that they've rebranded and they no longer want to use orange, they want to use black, you know, or they want to use blue as their primary, as their main color. You now need to come to your design system after you've done everything to now change this to blue. It may sound easy, but it's not that easy. So even if you do it on your own end here, it will have to also, the name will have to also be changed, you know, on the design system for the developers. And that is not that easy. It's typically a very, you know, tedious, you know, task. So generally, you have to name these colors based on their use, based on their usage, and not based on, you know, the actual colors. So here is primary color, you know, secondary color, accent color, you know, warning, fill, you know. So that's kind of how you want to name it. Now, you also, in fact, I should have done this. I should have done this before multiplying this, because now it's now become a lot of work. You can also,
Hi, Brian.
yeah.
I'm a bit lost. What's the warning color?
What's the what? The warning color.
Warning color, warning
Oh
color.
yeah, I mean it's still this. I mean, I just decided to use the same color of my secondary for my warning as well. You know, you understand? I just decided to use the same secondary color as my warning color. You know, I just didn't want
Okay, yeah,
to.
like what's the essence of the one? What's like what does it mean?
Okay,
What's
I
the
mean,
essence?
it can mean anything. In my own case, yeah, in my own case, for instance, if this particular thing is maybe borderline, I'm just
Yeah.
going to come here and this color becomes this, for instance, right? Do you understand? Like if it's borderline, if it's neither bars nor good, it's like,
Oh, okay.
but that is my own utility. It's like
Okay.
a warning for me. It's not everybody. It's not every app that will have warning. You know, some app can have a fast, slow, whatever. You know, um,
Okay.
yeah. So it depends on what you are working on. But what would almost always be there? Primary color is always there, and the gray is always there. Not all apps will have. Not all products will have secondary colors. Not all products will have, you know, all of this extra accent color. But most, of course, most apps will have a color other than the primary color and the gray. You know, they will have colors that will show success. That is why I've said success here, or failure, you know. So these are things that many, you know, products are going to, you know, have.
Okay.
But apart from this, I'll have to
Thank you.
now name. So this is the primary color, but these things will have to basically, we have a way to differentiate this primary color from that primary color, right? So sometimes or most times, you know, people have like a convention. So for instance, they'll call this primary um, primary 100. Like, okay, let's see. For instance, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we can say primary 100, um, and then we can call this one primary 90, and then this one 80, and then this one 70, this one 60, 50, this one 30, this one 30. Yeah, I actually wanted this one to be 10. Okay, but whatever. But you get the idea, right? So you kind of have to name, because now when you are describing a color that you want somebody to use, somebody in your team to use, it'd be like, oh, why don't you use primary 20 or primary 100? So they now understand, that the higher the number, the deeper the color. And 100 is the deepest of that particular color, and 20 is the lightest of that particular color. That is your own naming convention. I'm not going to tell you how to name your colors, right? But just generally, you're supposed to generally have a convention for how you name them, right? So I'm just going to copy this and paste it in the other ones, but that would also mean that I would have to right. Interesting. Okay, so now that we are here, right? Okay, so this one is secondary, right? Let me see if I can do this. I'm just going to show you how to do it hard, and then I'm going to show you how to do it easy. Okay, so don't worry. There's an easier way to do this thing I'm doing. I just wanted to show you. It's important that um, that you understand the first principles of doing this thing. Right, and then the gray, and then now comes the part where you have to create a style for each of this thing, right? So to create a style, so you go to local styles, go to color, name, primary, and description. You describe what you want to use that primary color for. This time I'm just going to say main product color. And then these are the properties. This is where you now come and then you select it. Okay, so this is now your new primary color. So you create the style, and the style is now there, right? Of course, you can now okay, also create like the other ones. So so for this one now, sorry. So here, for instance, we also create this one. We'll call it primary 100, 100, and then create style. So, and that is kind of how you do for everything that you see here, you do it from this to this. Basically do it for all the colors. And I don't you don't need me to tell you that this is a lot of work, right? This is a lot of tedious and boring work that really nobody wants to ever do, right? So there is an easy way or easier way to do this, right? So you can come here and pick foundation color generator plugin. So with this, you can basically these are different design systems. Typically, I like material design system. That's the one Google. I think Google is like Google's design system. So here you can now choose the color. Let's say call it primary. That's our primary color, and you can see automatically it has primary 900 all the way to primary 50. Like dividing it as we said, we are going to need to do it. And then for this color, you can come here. Remember this was that our primary color. So we come here and pick this and paste it here. And boom, that's the color. This is the color, and these are the tints, and those are the shades of the color. We might actually even decide that we want the tones to be deeper. Okay, this one just okay. This material design system like kind of limits to anyway, so it has generated tones for you, and I think you might let's say there are one. So once you've done that, you can generate the palette. So you see how easy that was. So this thing that we spent how many minutes trying to do, we've designed it here, and it gives us even more information, right? It gives us a lot more information. And you can, apart from doing that, you can even create, color styles, like generate the color styles. And you can see automatically it says 10 styles have been created. You can go to your style. So if you click out, you can see this is the one that we created before. And now here you have this created for you. You can see primary and everything lined up as it should be, right? So instead of having this, we simply just have this, and we can, lay it however you want to lay it. Is an auto layout, so you can lay it whichever way is comfortable for you. So this, for instance, do it that way. So something. Anyway, so yeah, you can do that. You can do that. You can arrange it however you want to arrange it, whichever way makes sense for you. right? So you've done that for the primary color, and then you can do that for another one. Do that for the secondary. Color picker. Pick this one. It has a secondary color, and then can do the same thing. Create a palette and create a style. Sorry. And then create styles as well. So what do you guys think is easier, the first way or the second way? So see this now we have like
The second one.
yeah, primary, secondary. So this is a lot. It's no longer that scary, right?
Yeah.
So you can use this and then do that for all the different colors that you have and create styles and everything for them. So now you have color styles, and that way your designers can be on point. So you can still come in and then basically decide how where you want to use what. So that's, I guess, are we done? 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 Okay, so we've talked about color contrast plugin. We talked about it, yeah? We had, did I show you the plugin for color contrast? Yeah, I did. And then the plugin for color palettes, yes, I did. And then I showed you the website for selecting, for selecting colors, yeah, and also testing for color contrast and color wheel and all of that. So yeah, I think we are done here. Tomorrow, sorry, next week we're going to talk about creating. Basically, we're going to talk about. Okay, sorry. Let me show you some examples, right, of how we use this. So here now, we have when you are using colors, right? You want to combine colors well. As you said, monochromatic colors are what is mostly used in product design. So here, for instance, you can see in order for this to have, for you to be able to see this well, but let's be honest, I might actually even have, flunked something here, but let's see. Let's see if my contrast is on point. So let me select this, for instance. Oh, I failed every test. So in order for me to improve this test, what I need to do is to pick a better color for this. So here I'm going to go to my color and then maybe choose this. Then it passes. Okay. So it means for the background, for the background now, I'll have to select a different color. Let's say that's still for my system. I can, okay, this is even worse. Let's say this. Okay, now let's test it and see. Okay, so wait a minute. Let's try this. Okay, so this failed on all sides, but if I use this, for instance, primary 50, okay, it still fails on this end, so I have to reduce this one. I have to reduce it to apply primary this. Does it pass? Still failing. Okay, let's try 800. Does it pass? Okay, so now it passed. So because it is a large text, and so it passes on all contrast levels. So that's kind of how to select colors. Uh, so you do that for all your. So here you can see that the color we used here. Sorry, this is like I1E, 1E, 1E, and it's not showing here. But another way I like would normally do it is here is 100%, here is 80%, but that's because there was no design system used here. We've not applied any design system, the color guide yet. But if we are to apply color guide, all we would have done is to say after we okay, let's first develop a this thing for the grays first. Foundational color developer, material, okay, so we can use this. Brown, okay. Oh, okay, yeah, of course. Great. Right. Or maybe we should go with something darker as the initial. Let's do this. Oh, okay, I get what's going on. I want to choose something dark, so I have more dark colors, so I can create style and create palettes. So I now have the gray palette, and then I also have the style, the gray style. So when I'm mixing up colors for this, I can come here for this this larger text. For this larger text, um, I can choose to, sorry, I can choose to use the darkest shade of the gray I have. And then for this one in here, I can choose to use a lighter shade to show that it's a secondary color, right? And then I can use even a tertiary color for this. Um, I can use even a tertiary color for this. So basically, that's kind of, you get the idea. And then you do it for basically all your these things. Or another way to do it, since we already have something here, another way I would do it is to select everything. Like if I want, okay, let me show you the importance, like why it's important that you have like a a guide and you have a color style, right? Now, because this thing here at the background is named, right? Let's say we have like plenty of it. Let's say we have plenty of this, you know, and then at some point, company changes their mind that they want to be using green instead of this. I can go to the foundational color, and then I can go to edit, I can go to edit this. And then I can say, I can edit it from here. And then I can edit it from here. And then as I'm editing it, it's editing everywhere. You can see it's editing everywhere. Instead of me editing it one by one, right? So that's why it's important to, make it a design, a style guide. So if I want to make everything here a style guide, as you can see, see all 20 colors, you know, they were not style guides. You know, they are not attached to any particular, you know, style guide. So I can come here and, you know, make everything a style guide. So everything that is now this color, you know, becomes this color, and then, you know, I can just do that from there. So this one is this, and this one is secondary 500. This one is also primary. And this one is, I've not done for the rest. But generally, that's how it is. So you just, by the time you finish everything, you can see, you know, when you now go to selection, everything will now be select like foundational this, foundational that. So that when you, if in the future you need to change something, you can just come and change it from the style guide, so that everything is going to change on all the on all your screens, as opposed to changing them one by one. That makes your work a lot easier. Well, so that's it. So next week we're going to learn typography and the theory of how to use typography for UI designs. That's it for this week. Any questions? Are there any questions? Okay, then. So I'll just take it that everything was understood. Thank you very much, and have a nice week ahead.
Wow.
Thank you.
I miss out.
Thank you.
Please, when are you going to upload the other classes?
I'm going.
Especially the one.
I'm going to do that right away. I'm going to, because what I need to do first is to upload it into the YouTube channel.
Okay.
It's actually that hit that is making it big. You know, before I used to just copy the link and then post it.
Yeah.
But now I have to upload it. I have to upload it to the YouTube channel, which is also, you know, work on its own, and then I have to copy the link from the YouTube channel. So I'm going to just take out like an hour and do that for the two previous classes.
Thank you.
For this class here. So I'm
Yeah.
going to do it right.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, please, sorry, please. A quick question. I was off. The network was so bad. The name of the plugin for the color styling and generation.
For that is let me check the name. So that is Foundation Color Generator.
Okay, thank you.
Foundation.
Yeah, and we thought.
Color Generator. Yeah.
Okay. All right, I got it.
The contrast one is.
So we. Oh, contrast.
Well, you can actually just search. You know, you can. I'm sure that there are many other
ones. Okay.
And just shop around and see which one, you know, works.
Actually, I'm sure this foundation color there is more simpler. Like it does like two things at the same time, other than going for one that will generate color, and another one that will do styling. So it's cool.
So this one generates and does the style guide for you. It just does everything. So you don't have to. You can imagine that. I showed you the work process, so you know how.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy. So plugins kind of make our life easier. So yeah, you should use more of them.
Okay.
So you were going to tell me about the contrast.
The contrast. The plugin for the contrast is Contrast. Just called Contrast. That's a plugin.
Okay, just Contrast. Okay. All right.
Or you can also use that website, but I think Contrast is better because it does it right there, you know, on the Figma app.
Oh, yeah, inside on Figma, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Right. Any other questions?
Yeah, it's unrelated, but does it mean someone that is colorblind cannot be a designer?
That's an interesting question. Well, you know, the thing is, generally, as a designer, you are designing for everybody, including people who are also colorblind. In fact, if you are colorblind, it's going to make it difficult. I don't know if there is. In fact, I'm sure, definitely, there is going to be like a plugin that makes, you know, that makes it easy for There are going to be a tool that makes it possible for people with blue green color vision to red green color blindness to be able to differentiate which is which. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm sure that people who have this disability are not completely cut off from the industry.
Okay.
If they design anything, they will just so they would just have to know colors in terms of that this is red and this is green and it has a difference. So maybe they're just going to start running from those colors or start thinking of those colors in terms of the codes that they are in, and maybe just pick a couple of codes that work for them. Otherwise, I really don't know. But that's an interesting question. I've really not thought about it. But I'm sure maybe even if they don't do visual design, they can still do interactive design and all of that. So
Yeah.
design is not UI alone. There is also the UX and all of design that can maybe excel on that UX part. But yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about. Yeah, but I'm sure there are tools that make it possible, for even blind people, people that are totally to do
that. All right, thank you.
Or if they are none, you can actually think of it as a project. That would be interesting. Right. Okay. All right. Then, any other questions? Okay, then. Okay, have a nice day. Let me just try to upload this thing now, because if I don't do it now, I don't know when I'll have time to do it again. All right.